So this is an existential day for the Eurozone, the European Central Bank, and of course Greece, where I am headed now in a 5 a.m. taxi in London. Here's why. I mean, the European economy is stagnating. There's deflation in many countries, real deflation, very low growth. The banking system is shored up, but won't survive forever prolonged deflation. And here's my theory about why that is. If you look at the entire world, growth is slow after the crisis. There's only so much growth going around. The three big countries that have done quantitative easing, which are America, Britain, and now Japan, are getting some of that growth. Europe, this big 250 million person continent, is not getting a lot of the growth. So they need to do quantitative easing. Now, the chair of the central bank, the governor of the central bank, Mario Draghi, says they need to do big quantitative easing. He has implied in previous statements they need to do up to $1 trillion, certainly 900 billion to $1 trillion, to get back to the levels of stimulus they were putting into the economy in 2012, when it looked like it was all going to pot. Right. So he also has said that alongside massive quantitative easing, there should be a loosening of the fiscal stance. That means that some countries in Europe should do less taxation and more spending and boost their economies, like Alistair Darling did in 2009, 2010, and like the Americans have done more or less forever. But they can't, because they've all signed up to do the opposite. Above all, the Germans, who have signed up to themselves to do the black zero, that is the balanced books. Right, so as against that aspiration, it looks like today he's not going to be able to deliver it. He will maybe announce, we are hearing 500 billion worth of quantitative easing. Maybe he'll just leave it open-ended. But the big issue is he's not going to do the full quantitative easing that is implied by Europe being a single currency. It's got a single central bank, it's a single currency. If you follow the textbook, what you would do is say, right, that European Central Bank will buy, on behalf of everybody in Europe, $1 trillion worth of bonds of countries in Europe, thus, if you look at my previous explainer, thus stimulating the economy via the banks. But what it looks like he's going to say is some variant of, hey guys, there's 19 countries, you've all got different risk profiles, Greece you're bust, Spain you're not far off, Italy terrible stagnant, massive debt, blah blah. Therefore, each central bank can do a percentage of that 500 billion or even of that trillion, and therefore the people who get to do the biggest percentage are the ones with the safest debts. You have to buy your own country's debts, not somebody else's. That's what's been briefed. Now, if, and I stress it's an if, in 8 to 9 hours time, they actually do that, let's call it national QE, country by country QE, what's the advantage? He gets it past the Germans. Germans probably vote against it in the ECB's council anyway, but they won't kick up a mad fuss about it. They don't want risk transfer inside the Eurozone. That's the upside. The downside is that it looks to the outside eye like you're designing the breakup of the Eurozone, because you're actually saying some countries aren't as trustworthy as others, and the Greeks expect, I've got the Greek government lined up for an interview today, and they expect to be excluded, and if they're excluded, they'll blame it on the left in Greece for creating uncertainty, but they'll find it very hard to sell to their own people, hey guys, we've been excluded after 4 years of the toughest austerity in modern times. We, the Greeks, don't get to do QE. So that's why I'm going to Greece. As well as the fact, of course, on the Sunday there's an election that might elect the first ever Marxist government in modern history.